Hello, everyone. And like I mentioned at the end of the last podcast, we recorded 4 hours straight. So I'm just going to let you guys go right into where the discussion was at the end of the last podcast. Hopefully, I picked a good point to put in this outro and intro. I do my best, but I did really need it to kind of just like divide up these podcasts. So hopefully, you guys enjoyed today's episode. And I'm just going to like let it roll and enjoy. Obviously we want to talk about World of Warcraft. We're like 2 hours and so we barely even touched on WoW this, but this was kind of like a weird episode because of the scheduling problems that I've been having. So it's my fault. Blame me. So we're going to go longer. Anyway.
Yeah.
So getting back into World of Warcraft is something that, I believe Bellilar was talking about yesterday. And I was thinking a little bit about this because they're apparently with 9.25 or whatever, they're making everything like easier for people to get back into it and stuff like that. But if you want to start jumping into the end game systems and stuff like that, you still are expected to do a certain amount of grind. Not exactly sure how much that grind is going to be. I'm not sure how hard it's going to be. But I was just thinking about it, it's like, okay, so say I want to bring my warrior back. My warrior is already max level because I did level my warrior when I was playing with my paladin. I leveled him. And so for starters, you have to level up your renown, I would assume. Then you'd have to get something. You have to farm out your legendary again, which probably involves a crap ton of Torghast runs. Again, I would assume. I don't know.
Probably.
And then on top of it, you have to go do a bunch of Zereth Mortis in order to unlock your second legendary, which I'm not sure if that also involves Torghast grinding or not. Like, imagine that this takes like maybe, I don't know, friggin' 20 hours if you're doing content that is not even that relevant anymore. Is that like a reasonable thing? Is it not a reasonable thing? What do you think about that?
I think it sort of goes, I think, in multiple different directions. But I would say there's an acceptable level of grind that should be required of returning players. If you took a break, you can't just be expected to walk back in and immediately pick up where you left off. This is an RPG after all. RPGs are about progression. They're about power progression. If the easiest way to play a game is to quit and come back later, well, the game is wrong,
but
right? The game isn't working.
That has been the easiest way to play World of Warcraft, kind
Yes, but that's an issue. That's a relic of World of Warcraft's own design, because they put so many borrowed power systems into the game that you have to do in order to be able to do the things. The grind, the sheer grind necessary to actually get into the content, it was too much. If a player came back after 2 years. Imagine no catch-up mechanics whatsoever. This means they're going to spend probably a couple of months trying to get their reputations high enough so that they can go into all of the new zones. They're going to have to finish all of the storylines in order to get into Korthia, then finish all of Korthia in order to get into Zereth Mortis. They're going to have to do all of their conduits and collect all of those conduits. They're going to have to do all of the Mythic Blast for the gear. Probably some of the older raids in order to get that gear so that they can actually get raid ready. You're talking about 6-7 months before you can actually get into the normal content again. So there always has to be a massive level of catch up to ensure that people don't have to go through all of that shit. The problem is that the catch up also then sort of nullifies the system, because the most optimal way of playing the game is to wait for the catch up to kick in and then fucking play the game. Because if you don't, you're going to be grinding a lot of shit that other people are going to get in a week. So you're sort of creating a weird reward structure around how to play your game the best way. That is probably not going to be a problem in Dragonflight, mainly because there is no borrowed power system. The only thing that you're going to have to do in order to catch up is gear. You're going to need the gear that you've missed out on. And thanks to Mythic Plus, that just means you're going to have to run a couple of Mythic Plus in order to get the gear so that you can start raiding, which is good. I think for 925, Blizzard is sort of doing the best they can. we have to remember, if you remove all of the borrowed power systems from World of Warcraft Shadowlands, you're not left with much. Like, the game doesn't have a lot to fucking offer outside of the borrowed power systems. So I think Blizzard is sort of doing a last hurrah here, where they're sort of going, look, we still want you to do your reputations. We still want you to get your covenant up, and we want you to max out that. But we're going to make it stupidly easy for you to do, right? So it's going to take maybe a couple of days of emissary farming, and you'll have max level covenants. You're going to do maybe a couple of Mythic Plus. You're going to have all your gear. For Torghast, I can imagine maybe 1 or 2 weeks. Maybe 1 week for your first legendary, and then maybe a second week for your second. And then you're good to go.
So the reason I was talking about that is because I think that a lot of people are wondering when might be a good time to kind of jump back into the game when it comes to, Dragonflight and stuff like that. I know that I've been wondering that myself because I do want to check out Dragonflight and I want to give it like the fair shake and all of that stuff. But I'm wondering how much grind it's going to be necessary just to get like back up to snuff. Because I remember when I came back for Battle for Azeroth and the amount of stuff that I had to go and do just to get prepared with like the what was it called again? That weird system with the quirky friggin' procs that you get all the time. The what?
The Azurite. You're talking about the nightmare. Not the nightmare system. The insanity stuff.
Yeah, the insanity stuff that you'd have to go and do. Dude,
I can't remember. I didn't play Battle for Azeroth that much, so gameplay stuff I do not fucking remember.
But like, I'll tell you right now, for instance, doing that, if I had to have done that solo, I would have been completely screwed because the way that I did that is I actually had a friend of mine carried me through it. And it was basically like, okay, we're going to go in, you're going to die. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm just going to do everything for you. I was like, all right. So I'd go into the nightmare,
Easy.
I would die, and my friend would like, then we'd be talking for a while my friend was like pulling the entire instance, murdering everything, and then boom, done. And then I would get like one special superpower, whatever the crap that thing was. And I was like, okay. And then my friend would go like, okay, now we have to do it again. And I was like, oh. And so it was like we had to do that so many friggin' times that it was just a massive grind just to try and get that thing done. And now I'm thinking to Shadowlands, and I'm thinking about, okay, we need to do Renown. We need to do Legendaries. And I'm actually curious, by the way, because I know that a lot of people are going to come in and they're going to say, Rurikhan just wants everything handed to him. No, I don't want everything handed to me. I have no problems working for my gear and, my progression and all of that stuff. Quite the opposite. I never want stuff to be handed out too easily. Yeah. But I'm just wondering, and maybe some people in the comment section will be able to answer, like, how many hours would it be? Like, if I was to come back into World of Warcraft right now, I have a character that's fully max level. He's not caught up on Renown. He does not have, I don't think I even have a single legendary on that character because, again, he was an alt. But, okay, so I have like a fresh max level character. What do I have to do? And how many hours does it take for someone to go and get prepared to the point where you can start working, on Mythic Plus, for instance, just to get an idea.
Yeah.
And now the question becomes how much, because obviously I don't think both you or I, not having played the game,
no fucking clue,
we don't know. So the question now kind of becomes, how many hours do you think is acceptable for that?
I can't really put an hour on it, but I would say the only thing that would be acceptable is gear. However long it takes you to get the gear required. So I would say for that, you're probably looking at Mythic Plus runs, quite a few of them, right?
Yeah, but like to give an idea, how am I going to get into Mythic Plus runs if I don't have the gear?
Well, you can start with normals, and then heroics, and then mythics, and then Mythic Plus.
Do heroics now go straight up to Mythic 0? Because I guess
I think the gear actually increases. Like Blizzard ups the item level, for every single tier. I think so. I'm not really. I haven't played World of Warcraft competitively in a really long time, so I don't really know that side of the thing anymore. But my heyday, the things that I loved in WoW was back in the day, that's how you would play, you know? In fact, I remember a time where the dungeons wouldn't actually upgrade your gear. What you would do with a new character is you would do all of the dungeons, get the gear, then you would go do, and I'll use Wrath of the Lich King here, you'd go do Naxxramas, because that's where the first raid is, that's where the first gear is. You need the gear from Naxxramas in order to get yourself ready for the Nexus stuff. Then you're doing the Nexus stuff, and then you go to Ulduar. And then with Ulduar, you now have enough gear, so I didn't really have to level any more characters by the time ICC came out. And I remember, I want to say ICC had some level of catch-up gear.
You had the Argent
tournament gear that actually provided players for the first time ever with a proper way of upgrading their gear simply by doing the activities within the Argent tournament.
Yeah.
And I would say that's probably fine. If you were if you need upgrade or catch up mechanics, create a brand new hub where sort of catch-up gear will be handed out to players at a reasonable rate.
I suspect that's what Zereth Mortis is kind of doing, but I'm not sure how it relates into the current legendary grind as well. Because I know that you need Zereth Mortis stuff in order to get your second legendary, but again, I don't know how many weeks it's going to take of people grinding. That's the thing.
Yeah, no. But that's the problem with borrowed power systems, right? As soon as you have a borrowed power system that's tied to something, then no amount of catch-up gear, unless, of course, you tie all of the previous borrowed power systems to the new system, which Blizzard have never historically done. But no, that's the problem with borrowed power systems, because now you have these two things that you have to do. You have to do Zereth Mortis for the catch-up gear so that you can go raid, but you also still have to do Torghast to get the items so that you can make your legendary so that you can
that's
raid.
the thing. I've heard that you don't, I think somebody said you don't even have to do Torghast anymore because you can get it through Zereth Mortis. But again, I'm not sure. But
maybe Blizzard did go balls to the wall and just removed any reason to do Torghast, which would actually make me do Torghast again.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
I like Torghast. I just didn't like it when they fucking forced me to do it.
Yeah, it's a funny thing that there's that whole study of the kids who did drawings and whatnot, and then somebody brought over candy, and then the conclusion that they've reached was that the kids that were just drawing because they liked it kept drawing, and the kids that were getting candy stopped drawing because well, what the fuck do I want? The fuck do I want to draw for? You're not giving me candy. I'm not drawing anymore.
Yes, exactly. This is sort of an intrinsic versus extrinsic thing. But I would say if you're going to push me for a time limit, I would say anywhere from 3 days to a week, max a week. So I mean a week if it's tied to getting unlucky. So if you could be unlucky, maybe it's going to take you a week.
A week is very
not game time. I mean, week is in maybe you play 4 hours a day.
4 hours, that is very generous. A lot
days.
of people don't have 4 hours a day to play, but okay, so a week of 4 hours, that's 7 times 4. That would be 28 hours.
Yeah, but as I said, that's if it's tied to luck. So in other words, you could get unlucky and something doesn't drop for you, right? For most people, it's going to be, say, anywhere from 16 to 20 hours, but there is a slight chance that you could get a little unlucky and it goes a little bit longer. Provided that the content that you do in order to get the catch-up gear is actually fun and good, I don't mind that, because I said,
mod dailies, because if it's mod dailies, fuck that shit. I ain't spending no fucking 5 hours doing mod dailies.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It should not be a tedious grind. It can be a grind. There can be grinds attached to it, but it should definitely not be tedious. And the grind should technically be a little bit optional. So what I would do here is basically do a baseline gear, gear set that is the bare minimum of what you need to go into normal. But then through the grind, you can upgrade that a little by getting a slightly better pieces that would actually give you more than enough to go into normal and actually, be fine in normal and then go into heroic and then go into mythic. But I would say that's about the cutoff or catch up that I would allow, because I think ultimately going too hard means that a lot of people are going to feel too punished to actually come back. Going too easy means that it becomes the best way to play the game. So you are sort of caught between a rock and a very hard place. TBC would be a great example of going too hard. In order to come back, you had to do every single raid in the game. You had to attune yourself to every single one of those raids. So back then, there were literally guilds designed for every tier of the raid. People would guild jump in order to go, because you would have some guilds that would do tier 1 Karazhan, and then you would have guilds that do the next tier and the next and the next and the next. So people would sort of go, all right, I'm in the Karazhan guild now, I get my kill, now I jump to the next one, I get my kill, I jump to the next. So that could take months, right?
Yeah.
In order to get all those clearances so that you can actually get to the new raid. That's not good, but you also don't want to have it so easy that it's the preferred way to play the game. Borrow power makes that very difficult to even talk about, because of how do you do it? I'd say as long as it's a good, clean system, I think anywhere from 3 days to a week of playtime, and something that you could easily grind out in a single day is fine. If you have an entire Saturday available, just sit there, grind it out, and be done with it.
I don't know what is the proper answer for this, because it all depends on how engaging the content is going to be, right? Ultimately, that's the way that I look at it. I was thinking like 10 hours, 15 hours, 10 hours, 15 hours, and then you can have some portions in there that are maybe a little bit more boring or whatever. I think that's kind of like where I'd like it to be in order for you to be able to catch back up to a brand new character or something like that. Not leveling, because obviously if you have to level, that should take longer. But if you have an already max level character, it should take you around 10 to 15 hours, and I'd be pretty cool about it. Now I'm curious, like, what are your plans in regards to when do you plan on jumping back in? Pre-patch?
I've been thinking about it more and more now.
Yeah, of course, because we're slowly moving towards that.
Yeah, not just that. There are parts of World of Warcraft that I genuinely do enjoy and that I would like to get back into at some point. It's especially a fun game when, you're not streaming and you just sort of want time to kill while you're watching things. I might jump back in, within the next month or so. Just get back in. But like I said, I'm just going to get back in just to sort of do shit. I think, maybe level some characters.
I think that ideally, for me, I'm considering, again, depending on what else is happening at the time, because we don't know when the game is going live, we don't know when the pre-patch is going live. But I was thinking that ideally would be like maybe 2 weeks before the pre-patch, because then you'd have enough time to like fuck around in the current state of the game, figure out what is what, maybe even engage in some random grind that you find interesting or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the pre-patch comes, and because you've been playing the game for 2 weeks, you're familiar with your character, familiar with the rotation, the new things come and you're like, oh, now I get to change this thing and that thing and whatever. And as opposed to if you jump into the pre-patch, you can just be like, oh my God, I don't remember any of this. And even though the pre-patch can be good, there's going to be a lot of attrition there of you just trying to figure out the thing while everybody else already, I figured out, I'm already doing this and doing that and doing the other thing. And you're just like, I don't even know which buttons to press. I'm still installing add-ons to make this shit work, right? So I think that 2 weeks ahead of the pre-patch might be when I would consider jumping in. Again, depending on what is happening at that time. Because like if suddenly there's a new Final Fantasy thing, there's a new Monster Hunter thing, it's like, well, yeah. But if there's nothing happening, I think that 2 weeks ahead of the pre-patch, I will jump in, check to see how things are doing, prepare my UI, because usually it takes me like 5 hours to set up my UI properly so that it's workable, because I don't do well.
Yeah, I'm also slow as shit. But we're getting with the pre-patch, we're getting like a major overhaul of the UI. So that's
is the pre-patch going to bring the new UI?
Usually it does. I'd be well surprised if it doesn't. Because usually they do almost all of the quote unquote menial changes.
Because when the new UI comes in, I don't want to be using any add-ons. When the new UI comes in, I'm deleting all the add-ons. Like, that's it. And then I'm going to judge the game exactly like that. Like, how does the game play without the add-ons. Because
So pre-patch,
if we're being fair, that's the way I play 14. No add-ons. Nothing.
true. But okay, so pre-patch usually brings all the class changes.
Yeah.
So you get brand new classes, and then also any updates that would be made to the UI is also made in pre-patch.
I saw the warrior tree. That warrior tree, the protection warrior tree is looking, I kind of like it. I mean, I don't like the fact that the first thing that is in there is ignore pain. And I'm just like, fuck, I wish you would just remove this ability from the fucking game, dude. Ignore pain fucking blows. But ignore pain is on there. And I was like, whatever. But they're bringing back something which I don't know if it was in Shadowlands or not. I don't think it was. The thing where you place Rend on the mob and then you spread Rend with Thunderclap. I don't think that was in Shadowlands, if I'm not mistaken.
I have no idea.
But I remember doing that in some expansion. I was like, this is fun, spreading Rend all over the fucking place. And then on top of it, you got deep wounds. So you get Rend, deep wounds. And then there was like a skill that would heal you for the bleeds that you were doing for deep wound ticks, I think. Jesus. There was some interesting stuff in there. And I was like, I don't know, this could be cool. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how it pans out.
I'm just going back because of the story, obviously.
Yeah.
But when it comes to tanking, I don't tank on my warrior. My warrior is strictly Fury or Arms, depending on which one sort of is more fun to play. When I tank, it's almost always Paladin or Druid.
Of course.
I prefer. It's not because I think warriors are bad tanks. That I just don't find them fun. My most fun tank is Druid. I don't know why, because Druid tends to also be one of the most boring tanks.
Yeah.
But I just kind of like the Druid tanking.
Bare ass. I don't like bare ass, dude. I don't like looking at bare ass all day.
Nah, it's fine. Depends who's ass.
Did they come out did they come out with Warlock trees yet or no?
Yeah. I haven't seen them yet, but they have been out for a few days.
You haven't you're not curious at looking at your baby?
No, because I hate seeing it without being able to taste it. Because on the face of it can look good. With Warlocks, so they already said something that pissed me off. And it's probably not going to piss a lot of people off. A lot of people are going to be like, what are you talking about? They said we wanted to keep the current play style and the feel of the current Warlock. And I was like,
and you don't like it?
I hate the current play style and the feel of the Warlock. So, this does not bode well for me. As an Affliction Warlock, for example, I prefer the more methodical, strategic approach where things are slower and your job is to manage your dots. It's not to burst shit. It's management of dots. That's what makes you good. It hasn't been that for a really long time. And if people fucking come at me saying, dude, you have to manage 3 dots, fuck off. Managing dots in WoW modern day is nowhere near what it was back in the heyday, back in the glory days. So yeah, I'm not, I don't know. I'll see. As soon as I get access, if I get access to alpha or beta, I would love to go test it out. Because that's when I'll learn.
Blizzard doesn't like us.
Yeah, I fucking doubt I'm gonna get alpha access ever or beta. To be honest,
I'm gonna check right now to see if I have it.
I know I don't have it. I've checked.
Let me just check real quick. Oh, look at that! I have it.
Do you actually?
No, I'm joking.
So the reason I probably don't have it is because I don't have a subscription to the game.
You think they're only giving it to people who are subscribed?
In the past, that's what they've done. In the past, they've only given access to beta.
I'm pretty sure that Quasi wasn't subscribed. They gave him.
Yeah, but he's a big streamer, big boy streamer.
Quasi?
So they do actually. Yeah.
Okay.
He's a pretty big boy streamer. I think he has like a good 1,000, 2,000 viewers on Twitch.
I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure.
No, I mean, look, I love Quasi's content. I'm not saying that he shouldn't. I'm saying I don't think he does, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
He's also a big boy creator within the MMO space, right?
Yes.
Which is probably why he would have gotten it. So I know, for example, way back during Waters of Draenor, I think, may have been Legion actually. No, it was Legion. Soda Poppin spent like months shit talking the game and he got access to alpha literally day one. Because he's such a big streamer, they don't really have a choice. You know, they kind of have to give it to him. Even if they don't like the fact that he's shit talking them.
We just need to be big. We just need to be big is all there is to it. Guys, like the podcast. like to force Blizzard into giving us alpha. It's that simple.
Oh, dude, imagine this podcast gets so big that we eventually get to fucking interview someone or have them on the podcast. That would be cool. Not just WoW people, like Yoshi P or some shit. That would be super fun.
Dude, cool, I'd love. I've already said I'd love to interview Yoshi P, but whenever it comes to doing interviews, the way that I would like to interview people is without guidelines. As in, okay, you're going to interview this person and we're going to talk about patch 6.2 or patch 9.25 or 9.27 or whatever. It's like, no. I want to talk to this person about a lot of things, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about this patch thing that you care about.
Yeah, I'm the same there. I want to have an actual conversation. I do not just want to have... so I've done 2 interviews in my entire life so far. One was with Madeleine Roux, the writer for Shadows Rising. And the other one was with Josh Keaton, I believe, the voice of Anduin. So I've had both of them on my YouTube channel before. And with both of them, the same thing. I got them on. I had questions prepared. You know, I was prepared for a conversation should it not lead to an actual conversation. But it ended up just being a conversation. It ended up being
those are better.
A back and forth chat. I love those. But I do think we've gone on. We're literally bordering on 3 hours. It is a long one. This is a very long one.
Okay, so one more thing from me, which the class fantasy thing. I did a video about class fantasy, which is about dungeons. Like, you know, I'm a big dungeoneer and all of this stuff. And I was wondering, like, what is your thoughts on the current state of WoW dungeons? Like, even just like leveling dungeons and normals, mythic zeros, heroics, that stuff. I mean, most of those dungeons, if you think about it, it's just like AoE pull, AoE kill, boom, done, efficient, fast, go. In terms of Mythic Plus, most of the time it is kind of like that, although you do have the odd CC here and there, depending on the mobs that are there and whatnot. I was thinking back to the days where I was playing Burning Crusade. And I'm not saying like back in my day. I'm just genuinely curious where people stand nowadays when it comes to this. Like, do you prefer this like fast paced? Because I remember back when Wrath of the Lich King came out, I was like, dude, I love this. This is amazing. I don't have to worry about CC. Fuck yeah, dude. Vroom. Just like go through, tank everything, kill everything super fast. Boom, boom, boom. But like after you've done that for so long, particularly when you that's also what you do in 14. You basically go in like we said previously. It's 2 pulls, a wall, and a boss. 2 pulls, a wall, and a boss. Repeat. It's like I was thinking, particularly from almost like just a fantasy setting. Isn't it cooler when you actually have the different roles and you have people like back in the day when you used to do, okay, moon is for sleep, square is for freeze. You know, you had all of these things. Purple is for sap, whatever. Do you think that they would ever go back to the more methodical style of dungeons? And do you think that would be a good thing? Or do you prefer the way things are now?
Okay, so my favorite time to dungeon was Cataclysm. In the beginning, before the nerfs. I think World of Warcraft has an incredible problem with an aging game that's just been completely neglected. I think normal dungeons should already teach people how to play their class at max level. I think for a long time, I actually believed that the world, so the questing world, should do that for people. And I just sort of, since then, I've sort of refined it to the point where this isn't Elden Ring. This isn't Dark Souls. This is an MMO. You can't really have every mob be a challenge of skill for every player, right? Because different people are on different skill levels. So who are we going to choose? Are we going to choose the best people and have that be a challenge for them? Because now we have a fuck up. There's a bunch of people that can't get past level 1 because they keep dying to the first mobs they meet? Or are we going to make it so hard enough for them, but then everyone else is just smashing through it easy? So you can't really do that. But in dungeons, I've long said Blizzard should take a methodical approach and take it dungeon by dungeon and rework every single dungeon in the game. Bring it up to par to be level appropriate for the player that is going to do that content. So that, say, for example, you have a dungeon that you're going to do level 10. So what CC would you have available at level 10? Most classes might not have CC at that point. Okay, so we're not going to have CC here, but we are going to challenge you. We're going to put stuff in here that sort of the tank has to learn how to taunt, and the tank has to learn how to do some AoE tank, because maybe they just got their AoE ability. And the players need to learn what target selection is like. Am I just going to randomly attack everything? That's probably not the best idea. I need to wait for the tank to get through, stuff like this. So I personally would like if Blizzard went back and sort of updated things to be more methodical and be more surgical, and especially once you get to the latter levels, the 40s, 50s, 60s. This is where dungeons have to become kind of thinking about it, not hard, but there needs to be a think. So I'm in agreement with you there. A mark system, blue. Okay, we have the blue square that needs to be frozen. We have the circle paladin. You're gonna stun there. That sort of things. I think is stuff that's missing from the game. And the main reason I say it's missing from the game is if you have classes that get different abilities at different levels, there needs to be a reason why they're getting those abilities at those levels. If you're level 40 and you just got entangled on your druid, why did you get entangled on your druid? If you're not going to use entangled at all until maybe max level, well, then why didn't you just fucking get it at max level? The fact that you got it at level 40 means there needs to be a reason for you to use it at level 40. And that reason can't just be, I want to see what this new ability is like, right? Because that's usually what you do in WoW. Whenever you get a new ability, you use it on a couple of mobs just to go, what is this ability? Am I ever going to use this in a dungeon? No, not now. At least not until Mythic Plus. But I still, I want to see what it's like. So no, there I agree with you. I prefer, but I think this also goes into the whole class fantasy discussion. Like you said, I think class fantasy is a big problem in World of Warcraft, but it seems to be a problem that Blizzard have now finally given up on. Blizzard have literally come out and said, we no longer believe in class fantasy, nor are we going to design the game to be. Yeah, they believe in spec fantasy now. They've embraced spec fantasy as the new, quote unquote, philosophy going.
It's kind of like the same thing, though. I mean, you have a rogue in a certain spec is going to have a sap, and no reason to do it in dungeons.
Yeah, but the thing with class fantasy and spec fantasy, up until Warlords of Draenor. Yeah, up until Warlords of Draenor, World of Warcraft was based around the idea of... Actually, I'm lying. Up until really Mr. Pandaria, World of Warcraft was based around the idea of classes. You weren't an Affliction Warlock. You weren't a Demonology Warlock. You were a Warlock. And you just happened to have spec'd into Dots more, or into Demons more, or into, Fire more. But you were a Warlock. At your core, that's what you were. The class was designed around you being a Warlock. And as a Warlock, you had basically all of the same spells, with the difference being your rotation would be different due to the fact that you got different spells based on your specialization. But you still had access to all of the other spells. And for a lot of it, so famously, for example, as a Demonology Warlock, you still had all of the same dots that an Affliction Warlock would have baseline that you would use in your rotation, plus then a bunch of new things like Doom, for example, that you had to refresh once a minute. And people always looked at that going, oh my God, once a minute, dude, what the fuck? It was actually a much more thought-provoking dot than most people realized, but most people are morons, so they don't know. And then you had your demon form and all the rest of it, that would change the play style, but the basic dots were the same. You still had Curse of Agony, you still had Corruption, you still had your Curse of Elements and your Curse of Weakness and all the rest of it. So those were still there. There were just added things. So for Affliction, again, baseline, same dots, but it would have added things, right? So there would be added dots on top of it. The dots would slightly change the way that they functioned, but it was all about you're a warlock first. Now, you're not a rogue, you're not a warlock, you are a subtlety rogue, or you are an outlaw rogue, or you are an affliction warlock. So now they are sort of embracing actually the point of you are your own spec. So if you're a warlock, an affliction warlock, you're nothing like the destruction warlock, you're nothing like the demonology warlock. You're an affliction warlock. And the only thing that sort of ties you together still is the fact that your class tree is going to be exactly the same, regardless of what. But your playstyle can be completely different. So Blizzard gave up on that. It's going to be interesting to see if it pays off for them, because the current way of class design didn't work. This is why Blizzard is going this new direction. So let's see, because Blizzard have for the last few years tried to bring back that class fantasy feel, and that's not worked. So I think Blizzard is now at a point where they're going, okay, since the player base wants class fantasy, let's just go with class fantasy. Spec fantasy, let's just go with spec fantasy instead. Because the player base clearly is rejecting the whole class fantasy thing. How that pertains to the dungeon argument, it makes no difference. Because, yes, like you said, you're still going to have SAP that you're not going to fucking use.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to, right?
Yeah,
that's my 2 cents on the matter.
It's like I just really wish that dungeons would be more like an adventure as opposed to something that pretty much everybody that is in there, they just want to leave as fast as possible. Like that's kind of like the vibe that you get when somebody goes into a dungeon nowadays in World of Warcraft. It's like you want to go into the Mythic Plus, you want to get out of there as fast as possible. You want to interact with the people that are in that group the least amount as possible. You don't want to get to know them. You don't want to get to know their problems. You don't want to you just want them to be good at whatever they happen to be doing. And you want to go fast and you want to get out of there as fast as you possibly can so that you can sit in Ouroboros and run laps.
Yeah, but there's a reason for it, right?
There's the timer.
When you go into a dungeon, not really just a timer, but when you go into a dungeon, you're joined by 4 NPCs. It doesn't matter that those 4 NPCs actually have computers that they're playing on. To you, they are tools. They're not people. They're not players. They are tools. You have 4 tools that's supposed to get you to the other side of this challenge. So you're not going to get to know them. You're not going to ask their names. You're not even going to talk to them because they're a tool. Tools don't need personalities. You don't need to know anything about them. You just need them to get you to the other side. And you are their tool. They are using you to get to the other side.
Everybody's using everybody else.
Yes. And I don't know how you change that. Like genuinely, I do not know what Blizzard does to change that. Because Blizzard got themselves into this with a game design philosophy that basically destroyed any and all community. But now that it is destroyed, I don't know how you bring it back.
It is interesting. By the way, I'm probably going to split this podcast in 2 because it's just so long. So it's whatever. If we go on a little bit longer, it's not the end of the world. Unless you have to go. I assume do you have to go or no? You got some time?
I have to go soon-ish, but not immediately.
Okay. So the thing is, back in the day before we had the Dungeon Finder, that's actually how I was recruited to my first guild. Because like we just formed an impromptu group to go through heroic, one of the dungeons that are in the Serpent Shrine Caverns. I don't know which one it was. It was one of the heroic dungeons in Serpent Shrine Caverns. And so I formed the group to do that dungeon, and we're running through the dungeon. And, everything's going fine. I'm doing marks and stuff because you're supposed to CC back in the day in heroics.
Yep.
So I'm doing my marks and everything is going fine. The CC's going and we're killing bosses and we're doing everything okay. We finished the dungeon and people were talking while we were going through the dungeon. This thing happened, that thing happened. People don't really do that anymore. And
no.
So we run through the dungeon. We finish the dungeon and we're all just like, hey guys, thank you, good run, bye-bye, whatever. And then everybody disbands and everybody goes do their own thing. Shortly after, I received a message from the priest that was healing that dungeon. And the priest is telling me, hey, you tanked pretty good. How'd you like to join our guild? I noticed you didn't have one. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. So I joined their guild, and within 2 weeks or something like that, I was doing my very first ever raid. It was Karazhan. And it's like, that was super organic the way that happened. Like, I met somebody in the dungeon run. We were talking. They thought I tanked okay. And then we go and we start a group, and I go on to a guild and whatnot. And we start, raiding. It was literally that simple. In the current way that we have things, that is never going to happen because, again, people jump into a dungeon and they just want to like wham, bam, leave. Wham, bam, leave. And it is something that I constantly rack my brain around. How do we change that mentality? And I'm not sure if like making dungeons harder is going to be the way, because that's essentially what we're arguing for. Make dungeons more methodical, make people have to think more so that they have to communicate more. It's kind of like, if you think about it like that, you have to kind of like communicate more with the people that are with you in the dungeon. Maybe that will lead people to, talk more or eventually engage more and a little bit more social. Maybe that will not be the case. But if you do have that adventure, and I'm not even talking about just like market, I'm talking about specific mechanics, almost like the stuff that we're talking about for the variant dungeons earlier. Because, there's going to be branching paths. Maybe there's buttons that you can press. Maybe there's activities that you can do. Like, I think they're talking about doing something with professions. Kind of like there was something like this in Shadowlands where if you had someone from like Bastion in the Bastion dungeon, you'd be able to activate some ads that would come in and help you and whatnot. And there were things like that with the Covenants. Except what those end up promoting is like, oh, you probably want to bring someone from this covenant when you do this dungeon because you'll be able to trigger this thing that's going to be beneficial. And they're thinking about doing some, I think I've heard somewhere in a podcast that they're doing something like that for professions. So certain professions will be able to do certain things. I'm not sure if that's the way to go about it, but I think there definitely should be things that people are able to do during the dungeon that kind of like change up the way that the dungeon goes beyond just like potential CC and stuff like that.
I think difficulty is one way, but when you think about it, back in TBC, so here's the thing: when human beings are sort of confronted by difficulty, they find ways around said difficulty. So let's go back to the days of TBC. It's very difficult to find players to play with. There's a couple of ways to do that, and the most efficient way is to stand in town and spam until you get a full group, and then you go do the thing. So the obstacle is getting people together to actually play the game. The solution to said problem is, one, stand in town and spam, and this can take anywhere from 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, depending on, and I'm not being hyperbolic here, it once took me 6 hours to find a tank to do Hellfire ramparts in
Tanking
Hellfire
life
Peninsula.
is good, man. Tanking life is so good. It's nice to know that we're so needed.
It took me 6 hours to get a group together for that. It wasn't a complete waste. I was with my friends on Vent, so Mumble actually. We didn't use Vent. Yeah. But on Mumble, just hanging out, shooting the shit while we were waiting for it. My friends at the time, though, was much too low level to join, so I was standing there alone waiting for people to fucking get in. But anyways, so that's option number one. Option number two is to find people to join your guild, right? Because if you have enough people in your guild, now you can actually go do things. The problem breeds solutions. The solutions breed community. This is why communities exist. Why do people live in towns and cities? Because it's easier than living in the middle of fucking nowhere alone.
Yep.
Because if you're living in the middle of nowhere alone, well, you're going to have to generate all of your own power. You're going to have to get all of your own water. You're going to have to build all of your own shit. And if you don't know how to build something, you're just not having it. Right? You just don't have it because you can't fucking build it yourself. We moved to towns and cities because the problems there can be solved by many people at the same time. It makes it easier. The problem breeds the solution breeds community. Now, there is a point where that breaks down, but that's in the real world, not in gaming world. But what do you have with World of Warcraft when they design things like the dungeon queues and the dungeon finder systems? You now have systems that replaces the need for that community. Now, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, because it obviously isn't. There are plenty of games that have dungeon finders that do not run into the same problems as World of Warcraft does. I believe that the problem, or the big moment where World of Warcraft went sort of on a path of no return, was in their handling of servers, realms to be specific. It used to be back in the day, for anyone that didn't play back then, I feel fucking old when I say that, but realms were entirely ecosystems closed off from everywhere else.
Yeah.
If you were in a different realm to me, we could not play together. We couldn't even whisper each other. We were, for all intents and purposes, not even playing the same game. You did not matter to me. And I didn't matter to you.
And that's harsh, man.
Yeah, well, it is the truth, though, right? But what happens is I'm becoming friends with the people on my realm. I get to know people on my realm.
Yeah.
So we had, for example, famously, way back in the day on Kazakh, we had a famous druid that he was actually famous for ninja looting. So no one would join his groups. And whenever he spammed to fill a group, there would be like 4 or 5 literal messages in trade afterwards going, do not join his group. He's a fucking ninja looter. This is what he did to me last week. So that guy eventually just went quiet. Either changed his name or maybe quit the realm, because people figured out, don't fucking play with this asshole. He's a piece of shit. He ninja loots shit. So the realm sort of took care of itself. It sort of made sure that all the assholes got bullied out, and that the good people got celebrated. So we, for example, were one of 2 guilds that did alt runs every Friday and Saturday in ICC. And we would have people lining up to the wazoo to join our run instead of the other run, because the other run, the leader of that run, it was 2 guilds. It was our guild and their guild that were doing these runs every Friday and Saturday. And their guild master, who was also the leader of those runs, had a tendency to, whenever items dropped that he really wanted, he would get them. Right?
Yeah, guys, listen, we need to give me this item.
Yeah,
like,
we really need to give me this item.
We need to give this item to me because it's important. You guys need to understand. We need me to have this. It's going to be so much better next time. Trust me, guys. And then next time you guys can get it. Unless you was a warrior, so we might be dual wielding that two-handed sword. It's like, guys, we need for me to have 2 of these items. You just need to understand. This is something our group really needs. Okay?
But this is exactly it, right? People would come to us, and this is we started originally just doing it on Friday nights. This is even before I left for Kazakh. This was when we were still playing on like fucking Ragnaros, right? We would do this, and people fucking lined up to join because they knew who we were, and they knew that we did this, and they loved doing it with us. But that's the thing. You kind of had to. There was no other way. This was the way. You got to know people. You got to link up with people, and you made friends with people, and then you would invite people to your guild because it would make life easier. Now you have this, all of the realms have become one realm effectively, but they're not one realm. They are different realms, but they're connected in a way that you can play with anyone. So the chances of you meeting anyone twice in World of Warcraft is almost 0.
Yeah.
So you can be as much of an asshole or as untalkative as you want, and no one is going to know because they'll never see you again. And that's, in my opinion, Blizzard's biggest mistake. Blizzard should have, in the past, what they should have done, this would have pissed a lot of people off, but it would have been the best option. When they did all of these realm mergers, these cross-realm things, what they should have done instead is they should have merged the realms together. And now, the reason Blizzard didn't want to do this at the time is they said, what about names? If you have duplicate names, this is going to cause people to have to be forced to change their name, and that's not going to work. And it's like, well, yeah, it's not going to work for a short time, but people will change their names, and then they'll be happy on this new realm.
Listen, there's a 50-50. You just do a 50-50 roll. It's like there's two people with the same name, they get a 50-50 roll. If there's 3 people, they get a 3-way split. And it's like somebody is going to get the name and somebody is going to fucking lose it. Upset. And that would have been better. Yeah.
But then you had a new realm that was bigger, so it could actually support a community. And what would happen there is that realm would now get to know each other and they would eventually become good friends. Now, that's never going to be the case on massive realms like Sylvanas at the time or Kazakh nowadays. That's not going to be the case, but this is the same thing with cities. In small towns, everyone knows everyone and community is a lot better. In cities, no one knows no one and there is almost no community. But that's just the nature of size, and Blizzard can't really stop that. But at least it would have preserved the integrity of that community feel. Whereas that's gone, and I don't know how you get it back.
Yeah, I didn't even realize when I was talking about my story, but it's like, yeah, what you just said, like if back when I had this story with the priest recruiting me for the guild and all of that stuff, it was a multi-realm dungeon system, it wouldn't have mattered. I probably would have never met that priest again in my life. I would have never joined the guild. It would have been like, whatever, boom, done. Never happened.
Yeah, exactly. That's life, bro.
Yeah,
I don't know how Blizzard have a lot of problems, and it is problems that really comes with age. You can't really do anything about it.
Like, right? For instance, what are your plans in terms of like a guild coming back in? Are you just going to be a solo player when you jump back into Dragonflight? Yeah, that's the thing. I think that most players are thinking about it like that. They just want to go in there and be solo players. I'm thinking about like, I would like to have a guild. I'm not sure if I will have a guild or not, because pretty much ever since I started taking my big breaks in World of Warcraft, every time I come back to World of Warcraft, I usually go back to my old raid leader and I'm like, hey, you got a guild? Can I join? And now the problem is I've taken my old raid leader away from World of Warcraft and brought him to Final Fantasy XIV, and now he's not coming back.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, done with that game. Not playing that shit anymore.
I don't know. Can I say that? I don't know yet. My current plans is to play solo. I've been playing solo for all of BFA and all of Shadowlands because the games just weren't
raid,
good
right?
enough.
You didn't raid?
No.
Yeah.
No. The last raids I did, the last time I raided was in Taurus the Burning Throne. Got to Mythic Argus and then decided I'm done.
The thought of doing pug raids, because like, look, LFR is ass. You can't look at LFR's rating because it's not.
No, it really isn't.
Because like, again, if you guys were listening to either this podcast or the previous one, because like I said, I'm splitting this shit up. But if you guys were listening, whenever we talk about raiding, we talk about solving a puzzle. There are no puzzles in LFR. LFR is just like, it's a group of Zergs. It's just a bunch of Zerglings. A bunch of them are going to die along the way because they're expendable. That's the way that LFR works. You just throw Zergs at the bosses until the bosses fall down. That's literally the way that LFR works. So I raided LFR a couple of times and I said to myself, never again. So in order to even do like normal, I'm just like thinking like pugging that is not a good experience traditionally, because most people have unreasonable expectations. They're going to be like, yeah, you saw the guide, right? It's like, well, no, I want to figure out the puzzle. It's almost like, oh, you're playing this single player game. You've seen the ending, right? You know what happens. Like, no, I haven't seen the ending of the single player game. It's like, it's the same thing with the raid. I haven't seen the mechanics of the raid. I want to go in there and I want to see them and I want to figure it out. Now, I don't know how many pugs are doing like blind runs, but I would imagine that it's probably not going to be that many. For some reason, this actually works in 14. I believe that is because raids communicate their mechanics much better. There's no need for add-ons or anything like that to explain the mechanics to you. The raids communicate the mechanics, and people are willing to tell you, like, if they see somebody fucking up a mechanic that they're familiar with, they're like, hey, listen, that mechanic that you were targeted by, here's how to solve it. Usually that's the way it goes. Yeah. People very rarely rage quit, although, again, it is also due to the fact that it's 8 players. And if somebody rage quits, you can just re-queue, or you can wait a little bit and another player will join. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But in World of Warcraft, for some reason, this traditionally doesn't happen. And like 1 or 2 people leaving a pug raid usually means, well, raid is over. It's because everybody's going to start leaving. It's a cascading effect. Nobody wants to waste their time. They would rather go and try to form a new group rather than try to salvage a group of 18 people because 2 people left. For some reason, that's the way it goes. And it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you want to do raiding, proper raiding, you kind of need a guild. You kind of need a group because you don't want to be pugging because that's just like not a cool experience.
Yeah. My issue is just I hate the idea of being reliant on anyone, and I despise the idea of having to play specific times of the week.
Yeah.
I don't have time to do that. I want to, well, maybe now with my new schedule, maybe I can. It's all going to depend because, you know, I stream, or I try to stream as like, let's say 5 or 6 days a week. I stream until 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. Then I edit the videos from the streams. So I finish by 9 and then I go to bed, right? Yeah. Go straight to bed, wake up at 5 a.m., start working again. So for me, raiding is sort of like I have to make a choice. Either I raid and I have fun there because I do like raiding. It's not like I hate raiding. I love raiding. So either I raid and have fun there or I work and make money. And for me, the answer is almost always let's work and make money. You know, I mean, it's a Saturday and you and I both are not having a weekend, just working. And right after this, I'm going to be working, right? Actually, I'm first going to the shops, but then I'm going to be working.
Yeah, same here.
And then tomorrow I have, again, tomorrow night I do my Q&A on YouTube. And then right after that, I do the podcast for patrons. So I don't have weekends. I don't take days off. I basically work all the time. So for me, that idea of taking 3-4 hours a night and doing like raids, it's not really.
It is
not
very
stream
hard.
content.
Yeah, it is very, like I did it for 14, where we'd get together about 3 times a week. It is 2 hours, 3 times a week, and the worst thing is that I think it's mostly because of me. We have to do it really late. It's like 9:30 because before 9:30. Me being like with the kids in bed and all of that bullshit, it's almost impossible. And so it's 9:30 at the time we do it, and we raid for 2 hours exactly, which I don't even know if that's feasible in World of Warcraft because 2 hours gets you almost nothing. I remember raiding in WoW for like 3 or 4 hours. But like in 14 terms, 2 hours is a lot because you're constantly pulling. Like every 5 minutes you're pulling. It's like, oh, we wiped up, go again. Oh, we're about to wipe. Okay, wipe faster so that we go again. Get another pull in, more pulls, more pulls. I would wager that in like 2 hours of raiding, we do like 5 times the amount of pulls that somebody does in 2 hours of raiding in WoW. Easily.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. Because like,
I can see
there's
that.
no trash. It's just the boss. The boss is there. You go in, boom, done. There's not that much to worry about because like food buffs last forever. Not forever. They last for like 30 minutes, but they don't disappear on death. So it's like you can even eat twice and you have 1 hour of food buffs. So throughout the course of an evening, you already know you're going to eat 4 meals because it's half an hour per. And then, you know, it's just about potting when we feel like we've got the fight down. So you just need the food, the food buffs, the pots, boom, done. That's it. There's no like, oh, I got to get, you know, every pull. We got to eat the feast. We got to drink the flasks. And then on top of it, we also have the potions. It's like it's too much. And then on top of it, there's the trash. There's the running back to the boss. There's none of that. It's like you die, you're right in front of the boss again. Good to go.
Yeah, I think maybe if I do ever come back, it will be a spatial guild. I'll probably make the guild myself. I don't like joining other guilds because other people are fucking stupid.
Wow. Do you play on EU or NA?
EU.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, if you would join the alliance, I could play with you, but not like this.
I would never join the fucking alliance.
Actually, there's cross faction play now. I can be your tank even if I'm not in your guild.
True. But yeah, I'll probably start a guild, but this will be a very special guild that basically no guides. You're not allowed to watch guides.
Blind.
There's no serious bullshit. This is full blind runs. And I don't want people that sort of fucking take shit too seriously. It should be for fun. And if you
No, dude,
if
raiding
you
is
don't want
serious
fun-
fucking business. This is life or death. You understand?
No, fuck that. I've done that. I've done that in the past, and I'm pretty sure it keeps people back. I'm pretty sure it makes shit just unnecessary.
Yeah. There's too,
Yeah.
there ends up being too much drama.
Mm. And it's not supposed to be a job, right? It's a fucking game.
Yeah, it's supposed to
What
be a
it's
game. You're
supposed to be.
supposed to have a good time, and it's like, hey, if you make it, you make it. If you don't, you don't. There was even like a while ago in Monster Hunter World, they came up with this monster Fatalis. They released him in a patch, and it was really hard. And the first couple of attempts I did, I was like, I wasn't able to kill it. And I even made a video saying, if I never kill this monster, that is fine, because it is a challenge that you look forward to, and maybe you'll kill it, maybe you won't. I'm going to keep smashing my face on it, but if I don't kill it, it's fine, because I can see the mechanics, I can see how it works, I can see the puzzle, I'm just having problems with the execution. That was my thought process, and I was like, this is fine, this is amazing. And yet the game got review bombed because people thought it was too hard. Imagine review bombing a game with thousands of hours of content because this monster's too hard. It's too hard.
That's people. That's people for you, isn't it? That's what people are like.
Yeah.
That's why I say people are fucking stupid, man. Like,
Yeah.
not everyone. There's obviously the intelligent ones, but there are a lot of fucking stupid ones out there as well that just ruin it for the rest of us.
Pretty much.
In my opinion, at least.
So another thing that we should talk about is how dragon riding got nerfed, just like I kind of predict. You probably remember there was that podcast where I talked about they went too hard on dragon riding at the start, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it got nerfed, and if they nerf it, people are gonna fucking hate it. And guess what? It happened. It happened exactly like I predicted. People fucking hate it. The fact that,
but I'm pretty sure. So they've only nerfed the Dracthyr Soar ability.
No,
so
no,
the
no,
Soar
no, no.
speed have been nerfed.
'Cause, like,
640%.
Didn't they nerf? Didn't they also nerf? Oh, the other one was previously. It was the other week. They nerfed like the speed of regular dragon riding as well.
No. As far as I know, no. The speed is still the same. The only thing that got nerfed on normal dragon riding is
The turning.
turning.
Yeah.
So it's harder to turn. The Soar
Okay,
one
I was
is
confusing. I was confusing that. Okay, so the Dracthyrs are the ones who got nerfed. So that begs the question: why not just put dragon riding in the open world? Because clearly you can do it, because the Dracthyr can do it. So why not just let everybody do it?
I think it's because they want to figure out. They first want to figure, like, they want it to feel special in Dragon Isles. For now, if you open it up to the whole world, it takes away from that. This is a special thing that is at first only meant for the Dragon Isles. And I think also they don't want to set up a sort of world in which people just come to expect it. And then maybe they realize halfway through the expansion, you know what, this is really not a good way of doing flying. People are sort of bored with it, or a lot of people are doing scumbag things with it that we can't really stop, because there is the opportunity for cheating with dragon riding. It's like, so anyone should know what speed buffs are, or speed sort of hacks are in the game. Now, companies like Blizzard, games like Blizzard, have anti-cheat software that will basically ban you automatically if you move faster than what you can actually move. This is how they catch speed bugs, or speed hacks, actually. This is how they catch those hackers. But now you have a system that allows for that fast of a movement speed. So there's always that opportunity.
Positives.
Yeah, it's going to trigger a lot of false positives. It could also be used by the hackers and the cheat makers to actually sort of create their cheats, now even harder to see. So there's a lot of things that could turn Blizzard off this system and just be like, okay, you know, this was cool for Dragonflight, but we're never doing this again. But now if you've given it to the whole world, how the fuck do you take that away? Because now you are physically removing flying.
Yeah,
from the fucking game,
if you
right?
if you just see the current reaction to people when they nerf the speed of it, like a lot of people are really mad that they're nerfing the speed of the Dracthyr. And it's like, this is still an alpha and people are already mad. Imagine like putting it into the whole open world and then and then taking it away.
Yeah.
It is a conundrum, but I still feel like the way to do it is they shouldn't have let you go as fast at the start. They should have added that later. It would have been like a better way of, just going like, okay, here's what we have planned. And let's say it's like 600% faster. It's still like twice the current maximum speed or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So this is what we got planned. And then in a future patch, it'd be like, okay, we want to test this to the limits, so we're going to increase this brutally and see how it feels and see if the game can handle it or not. And then they could do the testing of like the super fast version. And then they could make the decision. And when they would make that decision, I think that there would be less pushback from the community rather than like, here's what we got planned. Maximum speed, maximum responsiveness, maximum everything.
Yeah.
And then you start taking it away.
So I think the only reason, I think it should also be just stated, the only reason people are currently so angry about the change is twofold. The one is that Soar is now 640%, and even though Blizzard did say that Soar will be a weaker version of Dragon Riding, people are still annoyed, and the main reason I believe people are annoyed is due to the fact that this is on a 4-minute cooldown, was 5 minutes until this week, I believe, when Blizzard actually nerfed the time or buffed it to only be on a 4-minute cooldown. Now, I think Blizzard should keep it at 640, but lower the cooldown to 1 minute, and suddenly no one complains anymore. Because the only thing that is pissing people off right now is you've nerfed the speed of it, but it's on a 5-minute cooldown. So if I use this, okay, it's a shittier version of Dragon Riding, but I can only do it once every 5 minutes. So if I fuck up, I have to wait 5 minutes before I can try again. And it's also shittier than the normal Dragon Riding.
Yeah.
So it's not really, I think a lot of people are sort of going, you're removing one of the funnest things we did in the game, because this was something that we could do in the open world that we can't do with Dragon Riding.
I think that when it comes to the Soar ability, due to the fact that it's a racial, there's also a factor that you have to compare it to all of the other racials currently in the game. And no character can do anything nearly that cool.
Yeah, but no other character has a racial of 5 minutes. Even, like, arguably some of the stronger racials in the game.
What's the cooldown on, like, Goblin rocket boots or whatever?
I have no idea.
I know that like the Dark Iron Dwarfs have like a beefy cooldown on their mole machine thing. So there are some beefy cooldowns in there.
Yeah, but the mole machine thing is sort of, I think, the equivalent of what other mole machine thing, and it's like half an hour, I think. Like every half an hour, because that's a massive teleport ability, right?
Yeah.
Where you can sort of teleport.
So there's, as you can see, there's
kind of
thing not where you want. You have to like unlock it. I've played around with that thing.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact time on it. I do remember that it's pretty fucking beefy. But there are abilities longer than 5 minutes.
Yeah, but we could argue that this is not anywhere near as strong as most racials would be, right? It's nowhere near as strong as some of the combat racials and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a long fucking cooldown. It's a 5-minute movement cooldown. I believe Goblin Rocket Jump is, I don't know how long it is, actually. I don't want to talk out of my ass here.
Yeah, because they have like the tool belt thing, and it gives them like the rocket boots and whatnot. I don't remember what the cooldowns are on those, but I think they're probably a little bit beefier than the average 1 minute cooldown for certain racials. I kind of feel like they need to, whenever they add racials that are this cool, they should just like add something cool for some of the other characters, some of the other races as well. Because it definitely, like, as someone who likes playing regular dwarves, when I first saw Dark Iron Dwarves, I was like, bro, what the fuck, bro? Like, what the hell? Like, their racials is like everything is just better at everything. It's like, what do you mean? I still want to play my dwarf. Like, fuck that shit. I don't care.
I personally would remove the cooldown entirely on both the Dark Iron Dwarf teleport ability, because it is something that, they can do it. Why is there a cooldown on it? The thing with Dragon Riding or Soar from the Dracthyr, it's a dragon. It will always be able to soar. There's no point for it to be on a cooldown. Maybe nerf the speed even more, but take it off the cooldown.
Oh, yeah,
so
and-
that people can move around, because you can't do it in combat, right? It's not
And
a
if
combat
you
ability.
If you think about demon hunters, they can always glide. There's no cooldown on gliding.
Yeah, they can literally glide as much as they want. This is a similar ability to that. So I think that's why people are so outraged, is the fact that if you remove Soar from Dracthyr, it's just like every other class, right? It's literally like every other race. It doesn't really have anything special going.
I don't want to make it sound like I'm like, oh yeah, they should like be stuck. Like I have no horse in the race because I'm not going to play a Dracthyr. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in casters generally, so it's whatever to me. But it does definitely kind of suck that like people were having fun with Soar and they're just like, we're going to nerf the fuck out of it. And it's weird. I even thought that they had nerfed dragon riding, but I guess they didn't. For some reason, I got that idea. But either way, yeah, I agree with your solution much more. Just put it down to 1 minute and it's whatever. Because the reasonings they said is like, oh, it's because of old raids. We wouldn't want them to do old raids too fast. It's like, what the fuck? Who cares? Like literally,
No
who cares?
one cares
and
about that shit,
And there's like,
dude.
it's the pet battles. We wouldn't want them to be too efficient at fucking pet battles. Bro, fuck your little Pokemon game, all right? I don't give a fuck. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Speaking about that, just as a sort of final thing there, Pokemon Snap is in World of Warcraft now.
Oh yeah, I've heard like there's some like snapping thing with Dragonflight.
It's also
That's
Breezy
interesting.
was making a video about that. Yeah, an open world thing where you go on a raft down a river and you have to take pictures of different animals and you get scores based on the pictures that you take. Just a fun little open
I think
world
that's cool.
outdoor
Like
piece of content. I
some
think that's
people
awesome.
will be like, "Who cares? That's not real content." It's like, no, dude, that's actually pretty cool. And I know that I just railed on pet battles. What I meant to say is like, I don't care if someone is flying too fast from pet battle to pet battle. I'm not actually criticizing.
It's their fucking pet battle.
I don't
go
engage in pet battles because it's the type of content that I personally don't want to do. But I understand that there's a lot of people that care about pet battles and that they love doing pet battles. And that's
in fact,
fine.
I support more pet battles coming to World of Warcraft.
Yeah, go for
I
it.
wouldn't do them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do them, but I do want them there for those people that do want to do them.
Yeah, exactly. And it is like if somebody's gonna switch mains to a Dracthyr because it lets them do battle pet content faster, is that really a big fucking deal? Like, oh my god, they're gonna complete the world quests about 5 minutes faster than me. Oh no! It's like, who
Let
cares?
them just have fun. Fuck. Let people have fun.
Like,
It's their
Jesus
game.
Who gives a fuck, dude? It's like, it's the same energy that I get from people in Elden Ring about like, you can't use summons. Summons broken. Boo 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 boo.
You see, this is just part of Blizzard's sort of. They have this mindset that they can't seem to break away from. It's this mindset of, we want you to play the game the right way.
Yeah, we want you
And
to play
kinda
it
like-
the way that we want you to play it, and that's what you have to do.
Yeah. This is the right way to play our game. And it's sort of like, well, actually, no. How about you just let people play the fucking game the way that they want to play the game? It's
Exactly.
their game. Right? You're just making it. They're the ones paying for it.
They
They're the
need-
ones playing it.
They need to learn to accept like a certain degree of players being able to just like do certain things. So long as it doesn't break the game. Like, I don't think that doing pet battles too fast is somehow going to break the game. Unless there's actually something in the code where it's like, if a character does 6 pet battles in the span of 1 minute, that's going to trigger something apocalyptic and it's going to delete Azeroth. But I don't think that's going to be happening somehow. So I think we're fine.
Blizzard, for example, when they removed portals from like most places in the game, right? So most places in the game where you could previously get portals to, they removed all of that and they moved the portals to what they would probably consider to be key areas. And then to compensate, they kind of sped up the auto flying, I think. There was no reason for that. There was literally no point. No reason why they had to add that in any way, shape, or form. The only reason for it was it slows you down in the world. It's all part of this engagement thing. Their idea is, if we can shave 5 minutes between or if we can add 5 minutes between dungeons for you that fucking spam all dungeons, that is an extra, say, 2 or 3 days over the course of a month that you're engaged with our fucking game. And it's sort of like, wait, if you just let people do it, they might actually do more than fucking 1 day extra. Because they're actually having fun.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's all part of this. Blizzard is
they very rarely
hopped up
think
on their
about
matrix.
They very rarely think about how much fun a player is having, and they're thinking about, no, you're playing the game wrong. You need to play like I'm telling you to play it. And it's like, no, not really. That's not the way that shit goes. It's like you need to learn to just accept certain things. Certain things are going to be different. Yeah,
They haven't learned yet that their methods chase players away. It doesn't actually bring players in.
It's surprising how they haven't learned that basic lesson yet, but we'll see how it works out for Dragonflight. Yeah. But there was one more thing that you wanted to bring up, and before you do, though, I would like to make a spoiler warning. So if you guys enjoyed the podcast up until now, thank you. You can hit the like button, subscribe, all stuff Accolonn in the description, all of that. But Accolonn's going to be talking about story spoilers because that was apparently a hot topic this week. And we're going to get into it. So this is your spoiler warning. And in 3, 2, 1, you are now subject to any spoilers that are happening. We've given you enough time to pause the podcast. So get spoiled, nerd.
All right. All right, I do apologize that I have to spoil people, but this is just the way the game works. There's nothing I can do about it.
It's actually funny because we talked about this before, how it'd be great if in the alphas and shit, they wouldn't just spoil the story so that people could experience it fresh when it actually comes out. But as it turns out, they did.
So this is a leak, first and foremost. It's a data mined leak. So
those are dangerous.
It's a user on Reddit that claims that they have data mined a piece of dialogue from the game files. Now, I believe that this have been sort of corroborated by Wowhead. So I think they found the text as well in the data mine files. So basically, there is a beloved character dying in Dragon Isles or in Dragonflight, Malfurion. Malfurion is dying, giving his life for Ysera to come back and be the green dragon aspect. This is a story that is tied into. What's up?
I'm sorry. No, I'm just thinking about how much I don't give a fuck about Night Elf. I'm sorry, keep going. I'm joking.
But no, I mean, for most Night Elf players, this was quite... On Twitter, you can imagine people are fucking angry because people are basically saying, so this is just another excuse for Blizzard to shit on Night Elves.
Because if you think, and I know that I made a joke. I'm sorry, Night Elf players. I'm not actually that. I just like memeing on you guys a little bit because there's the role play aspect of me. I play a dwarf. You guys are elves. We're kind of like natural banter back and forth. Like, I celebrated when Sylvanas burned down your tree because you guys can just go get another tree. Let's just be real. Anyways, I make that joke far too often. But it's like what I'm thinking about is. Stuff like that makes it seem like there's no consequence because I believe that for a lot of players, not for me specifically, but for a lot of players during, was it Legion? I think it was Legion. During Legion, when Ysera died and she was like fully corrupted or something like that, I remember, and you have to kill her. Like that, I felt like was probably a big emotional moment for a lot of those Night Elf players that care about all of these nature things and all of that stuff, right? And then you get to, again, interact with Ysera at some point in Ardenweald, right? Because Ysera kind of comes back. Not comes back, she's in the realm of death and whatnot.
Yes.
So there's, again, moments there, which, again, there should just be as like, okay, this is an emotional payoff. And now Blizzard's like, okay, none of this matters. She's coming back. Also, we're killing Malfurion. Now, my question becomes, okay, when's Malfurion coming back? Is it like 2 expansions from now? Is that how that's going to work? Because, like, who are we killing to get Malfurion back? Do we kill, like, maybe, what's her face? Fucking Night Elf warrior. I forget her name. Damn it.
Tyrande.
Do we kill her? His wife, Tyrande. Do we kill her and get him back? Like, do we sacrifice some other Night Elf? It's like, what are we doing? Do we kill a bunch of wisps?
So the story here goes, that day that Ysera gave her life to try and save Malfurion, Fate had willed Malfurion to die that day. Fate, now, it's rumored, it's at this point very headcanon. There are parts in the lore that suggest this, but it's never actually been confirmed. But Fate is an actual person, referred to as the Sisters of Fate, I believe, in World of Warcraft. But it is an actual being. Fate is not just the fate of the... It's an actual being that writes the scriptures of fate. And Fate had determined that Malfurion was supposed to die that day. Malfurion didn't die. Obviously, Ysera gave her life. For Fate, this was seemingly fine. This is all speculation at this point. The literal dialogue just shows that Malfurion is going to die. For Fate, this was seemingly okay, because a soul begets a soul. She got a soul, and that's what they're happy with. However, now that they want to bring Ysera back, Fate is sort of going, no. If you want this soul back, you're going to have to give me the soul that originally was written down as the soul that needs to come. I'm not giving you just any soul. I'm not just giving you the soul back. I need the original one. So this is why Malfurion has to die. The reason I brought this up isn't so much to discuss this, because I've already made videos on this, and I know you're not that big on the lore shit in World of Warcraft. The reason I brought it up is this goes so great into what we've been speaking about for such a long time. Can you imagine if this story came out and we saw it for the first time in the game with a cutscene, and that was the first time ever we saw it? We didn't see it as a piece of text on Twitter, because that's where I saw it, by the way. On Twitter, piece of text, people tagged me in it.
I can't even imagine, because I am like invested in portions of the lore, like Night Elf lore, Malfurion, and I don't really care too much about that. I care about the Curse of Flesh, the Titans, that type of stuff. That is things that are more interesting to me. But like, I can't even imagine what it's like for someone that actually does care about that aspect of the lore and gets it revealed. It's almost like, I imagine like some of the big events that take place in Final Fantasy XIV just suddenly being spoiled in a fucking Twitter post. I'd be like, bruh, what the fuck? Like, I'm so sensitive to that stuff that I actually had to avoid on the update day. We talked in the previous one about Monster Hunter and how massive update. On the day of the update, I had to avoid Twitter so that people wouldn't spoil like what the new equipment was like, because I wanted to see it for myself in the game. And it's like, it's just little things. And I feel like nowadays, a lot of communities do not give enough value to experiencing something for the first time when it comes to a video game. Experiencing it for the first time in the actual video game is completely different. It's not even in the same realm of experiencing to just read something in a Twitter text and actually see it happen in a video game.
I mean, there's no music, there's no graphics, there's no cinematic, there's no build up, because I'm sure leading up to that quest, there's going to be a lot of build up that then ends in the penultimate moment. So the fact that this is even in the game files, and now people can say, yeah, but Blizzard didn't release this during the alpha, so clearly people were snooping where they weren't supposed to. No. If you didn't want people to discover that, it shouldn't have been in the fucking game files to begin with.
Yeah, exactly.
It should not be discoverable, because of course people are going to snoop where they're not supposed to.
And here's
if
the thing.
There, they're going to find it.
You can't even make the arguments like, oh, how could we possibly have expected? People data mine literally everything in your game. Like literally everything. People will data mine everything. Anything that they can find. You can like make 1 million encryptions on it. People will data mine the fuck out of it no matter what you do. Yeah. Every single time.
Of course they will.
So it's like the only solution is don't have it there in the first place.
Yep.
Is World of Warcraft such spaghetti code that you need to have it in there? Like, I don't think it makes sense.
No.
It's not like the alpha version is going to update into the retail version. The retail version is going to update into the Dragonflight version, not the alpha. So the alpha does not need to have all of those things in there. Just put the things in there that need to be tested, be done. Actually, you shouldn't even put half of the stuff you put in there, because, like we've talked about, the entire story has already been spoiled of the expansion.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. But anyways, I just wanted to bring that up as a sort of classic example of a large chunk of the story being spoiled. Now, for me, this wasn't spoiled because I knew that Malfurion was going to die about 4 months before Shadowlands. I knew Malfurion was going to die, and I knew that Thrall was going to die.
Thrall's going to die too?
It seems like they cancelled that storyline because the way in which Thrall was supposed to die would no longer be possible. Like, there's nothing there anymore. So Thrall was actually going to give his life to... this is weird. But he was going to give his life somewhat to save Sylvanas.
Okay.
Like they were actually... like the original story of the Shadowlands...
That is some next-level Sylvanas simping, I'll tell you that right now.
Well, it was supposed to be that Sylvanas was right all along. Like, the things that Sylvanas was telling us, the fact that this world is a prison and that we haven't seen anything, and the whole discussions that she had with Anduin, she wasn't lying. The Shadowlands was a very evil place, like, very evil place. And at some point, we would have actually switched over and actually joined Sylvanas. This is why Sylvanas said during her final moments with her loyalists, "When next you see me, you will understand." So the original plan was that the Shadowlands is very evil. It's not actually a good place, and that Zuval is also evil, but Sylvanas is basically using him in order to set things right, and then we would stop all of them. So we would basically fix the Shadowlands, and fix death, so to speak.
Wonder why I wonder why they went and like did away with that plan. Then that's weird.
Personally, because it would have been very dark. It would have made the Shadowlands would have turned out to be a very, very dark universe. And I think
still
they just
are.
decided no.
I mean,
yeah.
Think about it like this: you can become fuel for the trees. You can become a blue angel that is basically a slave to order. You can become I guess the undeads are probably the coolest one. I've always liked the undead covenant the most.
Yeah, but
and which one's the other one? You can become a vampire that punishes people. It's like there's not a lot of good choices when it comes to that.
But you see, they framed those. So the exact framing that you had there, that was supposed to be the message that the Shadowlands sent, was this thing that we are actually just fuel for the Shadowlands. Like, we're not actually, when we die, we don't actually go to the halls of heroes or anything like that. We are fuel for the fire. And that's the thing that we would have fought against, and we would eventually have fought against all of the Eternal Ones. The original idea, I believe, around the Ouroboros raid was actually that we were going to fight all of the Eternal Ones and beat all of them. Basically to reclaim and save the Shadowlands. That's what we were going to do. Now, of course, they didn't go with that. The original story, though, for Malfurion dying was actually that Tyrande was going to kill Malfurion in a fit of blind rage.
That is a terrible end to a relationship.
Well, yeah, but it was actually... So Tyrande became the Night Warrior.
Yes.
She came face to face with Sylvanas. And in the moment that she was about to kill Sylvanas, Malfurion interferes. He stops her. And he tells her that Sylvanas' fate is not yet over. Her role in this story is not yet over. She can't kill her. But Tyrande, being so filled with vengeance and hatred, actually kills Malfurion by accident. It's not on purpose. She kills Malfurion. And then as soon as she looks at Malfurion and realizes that she had just killed the love of her life, she actually rejects Elune. She literally pushes the fury of Elune out of her, and then it was meant to start this whole storyline of Elune's place among the Night Warriors, and we were about to find out that Elune actually sacrificed all of the souls of those Night Elves on Teldrassil to the Shadowlands fuel, to the fuel pot of the Shadowlands. So we were meant to find out all of this shit. And they decided, obviously, to go a different direction. But we were told this by insiders at Blizzard at the time. I am sort of skipping over a lot of things because obviously it's not going to happen anymore. There's no point in really going over it in detail. But it was a cool story. Now it seems they're sticking with the death of Malfurion. I'm just sort of annoyed that,
it got
this
spoiled.
should have been in the game. Yeah.
Yeah, it should have been. Regardless of how I feel about it, like I said, I feel like it really diminishes the fact that Ysera died. First impressions, at least, it kind of diminishes her death. But then again, I'm not someone who's too invested in that story, so I don't know how the rest of the player base feels. But
I would say,
regardless,
I would say that. Sorry, I just want to say this last thing. The Shadowlands diminishes this death as well, like you just said. When's he coming back?
Yeah, exactly.
Now that we know what the Shadowlands is like, he's going to Ardenweald, he's going to be chilling among the trees, and then eventually he's probably going to come back as a fucking demigod. Easy, Yeah,
it's because, ultimately, if we can just go back and get Ysera, I mean, even our own character, isn't there literally a portal, right? There's a portal to Oribos. It's like, let's go, let's go. Let's come back.
In the lore, there isn't. So in the lore, there's no portal to Oribos.
No canon portal to Oribos?
Yeah. Canonically, there is no way for us. Once we get back from Oribos, canonically, there's no way for us.
I thought I heard from someone that portal was canon. I think it might have been Bellular, but either way, I don't know.
I'm fairly sure that the portal isn't canon, but I could be wrong. Right. I didn't pay too close attention.
Because if the portal's canon, is like, bruh, I don't care who dies. We just go in there and we snatch them back up. Like, I mean, Anduin's taking a vacation over there. Sylvanas is taking a vacation. They're probably going to come back. It's like, what's stopping us from going in there and bringing somebody back?
So even if the portal is canon, with the closing of the rift, so with that moment that we heal the sky, that portal will close as well. Because there is actually physically no way for us to move between those rifts. The only beings that can are beings of tremendous power. Like, they can move between the rift, but we won't be able to. So that portal will close anyways. But I mean, even then, there's a back door into Ardenweald through the dream. So even if you go on portal, you could just walk in. They tell us that as well. So yeah, it's just sort of like weird. I wanted to bring that up because if I didn't, people would be like, oh my God, they were talking about WoW, but they weren't talking about the biggest spoiler in the fucking history of the game. So I thought at least cover it.
Anyway, guys, this has been about 4 hours of recording. I'm probably going to record an intro to this podcast and then like an outro to because I'm going to slice this up into 2 podcasts. It's too much content. Yeah. We had a lot of stuff to talk about because we didn't talk about it last week, and we're probably not going to be able to do anything next week. So, at least this way we have like 2 cool podcast episodes for you guys. I'll be releasing these with a little bit of a delay, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification icon, all that stuff. Links to Accolonn's things in the description. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong. Stay safe. Peace out.
Peace.